Welcome to Sober Strength. I'm your host, Jesse Karajat. Thanks for being here today. This episode that you're about to listen to, it's probably the most important episode that we've published here on the show in a year. It's one that is about 2 months in the making, and hands down is the one that I just feel so privileged to be able to bring this conversation to you because of the topic. And that topic is mental health and addiction within the first responder community. So I have a guest named Mike Marotta, who is a leader within an organization called Warrior's Heart. And Warrior's Heart is an organization that specifically cares for, treats, and heals the first responder and veteran communities, if you will. So I absolutely loved the conversation that we had. I learned so much, and I think that you will too. And I think that it's just a topic that, again, it's just such a blessing to be able to bring awareness and education around this topic and just emphasize the importance of it. And I just enjoyed the conversation. I consider Mike to be a friend now. Going forward, I'm talking to Warrior's Heart as a publisher of a show that's growing in popularity. I'm looking forward to continuing to support their organization. But all that to say, just an amazing episode. And I hope that it just brings awareness again to this great need. So again, just a quick PSA with Sober Strength. I'm just excited to, I'd say, announce, but also remind that we have an app. It's called the Ultimate Fitness app, and it is free for veterans. So if any veterans are listening to this, or if you know any veterans, please just forward them, this podcast or ultimatefitness.com. We've got an app. It's got, last I checked, I think 20 different expert created fitness programs for different goals. Things like if you just want to get, brute strength, if you want to, build hypertrophy, build bigger muscles, even like run a 5K or a half marathon. There's different programs in there. And there's just like top of the line workout trackers and timers and video demonstrations, resources, all sorts of stuff to help anybody just improve their physical wellness and fitness. But also free within Ultimate Fitness is our community, the Ultimate Fitness community, which you can find on our website. That's ultimatefitness.com. And in that community, you have resources for habit change, things like, 30-day, alcohol reset, even a digital media detox, and then different forums for you to learn. There's a whole bunch of PDFs, but the whole goal with Ultimate Fitness in this show is to help people be happier and healthier. And we focus on things like, alcohol reduction and habit change, but also physical fitness. So just wanted to say at the top of the episode here that resource is out there. The fitness app is free for veterans. It's also free for active duty personnel. And then there's a low monthly charge if you're not a veteran or in that community, if you want to jump into the app as well. But the community is free for everybody. So that's a quick PSA. Look down in the show notes and you can find those resources. And without further ado, I could not be more honored to bring to you Mike Marotta of Warrior's Heart. Let's go deep. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sober Strength podcast. I'm sitting here with Mike Marotta. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm glad we can do this. I know it took a little while for us to get together for this conversation, but important things take time. So I'm very happy to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, there was some technical difficulties, some email exchanges. Thanks for being patient. I'm excited to talk to your listeners.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And let's start with this. Just if you could, just a little background about yourself, and then we'll dive into this topic of first responders.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Again, I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, officially, I'm the executive director here at Warrior's Heart, Virginia. Titles that are a little bit more important to me than that: husband, father, friend, leader, mentor, coach. So I just wanted to put that out there because being a follower, a husband, father, in that order are the most important roles that I possess. I'm a former San Antonio police officer. Spent 17 years at that agency. Within the San Antonio Police Department, I occupied some really kind of fun, interesting roles. I had a great time being a police officer, honor of my life. But the last few years, I was the wellness and resiliency officer. And then also, I am a veteran of the United States Air Force. I was a load master. I was an air crew guy. For those people who know what that is, I was the guy in the back of the bird, loading, unloading, weight and balance, and all the things. I definitely transported a lot of Marines, a lot of Army. Yeah, it's a little bit about me there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. And then with Warrior's Heart, just a couple sentences about that organization.
We are a substance use treatment facility that specifically caters to the warrior class. By warrior class, I'm talking active duty military, veterans of the United States military, all active, retired, former first responders. That includes police, fire, EMS, dispatch, emergency healthcare workers. There's a whole host of people out there doing work to keep people safe and alive. Yeah, so that is who we specifically treat here. We're looking for a primary diagnosis of substance use disorder, some type of chemical dependency. We also do treat the comorbid, co-occurring mental health disorder, things like PTSD. I do say I instead of D because injury suggests we can heal, we can get better, it can be cured. And so I really love the use of that language. Right? This depression, anxiety, and some of those things. Yeah.
God, I love that. For the sake of this episode, we're going to focus on the first responder community. And I assume nothing about my audience. So let's start with this. What is a first responder?
They're those frontline heroes, the people in our communities. We all know who they are. Wearing the uniform, they got the badge, they're in the patrol cars, they're on the fire trucks, they're in the ambulance. In some cases, they're piloting a helicopter. They may be even teaching your kids in class. They're greeting you at the hospital. They're wheeling you back in the hospital, right? Those are the first responders, the people in our communities who are doing the incredibly difficult work of making sure that we're safe, attending to our emergencies, making sure that our communities can function, and then we can live as free Americans.
Here's why I'm so glad I asked that question, because you actually just brought in my view of a first responder. So here was my view of a first responder: EMT, firemen, and police. But what I just heard you say, when that EMT delivers a patient to a hospital, and that a first responder is the physician, clinician, or even administrative staff that welcomes that victim or patient into the hospital, those are first responders as well?
100%, Jesse. When I was out in the field, you had a gunshot victim, somebody who was a victim of domestic violence or something like that. You saw them patched up, you dealt with the thing, and then off they went. Well, who gets them? It's not like suddenly they're better. Somebody's got to take care of them. And those are our emergency healthcare workers, administrators, the people who are coming in after, rehabbing them, and doing the important work of healing them and keeping them alive. So yeah, it is definitely a much broader definition.
Yeah, my best friend Kieran, shout out to Kieran if he's listening to the episode, but he joined the fire department in North Jersey, very busy department in Elizabeth, which is technically the town where the Newark airport is.
Okay.
And he joined the fire department, I think, under the impression that, you spend a lot of your time fighting fires, right? And now, I mean, shoot, that was in 2003, 2004. So he's been on the job for a while. I'm pretty sure he just made captain. But, when I catch up with Kieran and say, talk me through, how's it going? What's the day in the life like? He says that they spend more time as first responders to things like drug overdoses and administering Narcan, if that's how to say it, in the middle of the street, gun violence, violent crimes, auto accidents while people are intoxicated. So he would tell you that he spends 75 to 80% of his life helping people as more of like an EMT and experiencing those traumatic events firsthand. So it's not that he is in any way, against that, but I think the reality of what, like, say, a fireman does, I think there's a lot of interplay, and you tell me, where you're all out there doing the same thing, helping people and bringing them to a place where they can be healed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very rare that a policeman or a fireman shows up to a call where it's exclusively them. More often than not, we were responding together. And again, our firefighters, shout out my cousin, stepdad. I got family that are San Antonio firefighters. Now they're subject to the gun violence. They were subject to the riots and all the civil unrest and things that happened. It wasn't like, these things. Oh, there's a fireman there. Now let's go the other direction. No, man, they were in it too, right alongside the policemen. And God knows, I had more than one combative person, and there was a fireman right next to me.
Right.
And get
Love it.
on. Yeah. So, yeah, man. We're all in the same gig, and I love it, man.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you know a fireman in your life, don't think it's all cats and ladders and hoses and trees. They're out there dealing with some tough stuff. And if you know a nurse or a physician working in a hospital, same to be said about them. So make sure you reach out, see how they're doing. Now let's get into the topics of addiction and mental health. So first responders, now that we have a little better understanding of it, I think anybody would just assume or presume that they're dealing with and experiencing stress and trauma on a regular basis. I mean, exponentially greater than just the general population, right?
Yeah.
So with that as context to ask, how vulnerable is this community to mental health injuries and addiction? And how bad is it out there? What are you seeing?
Hi, I'm Jesse Karajat, founder of Altum Fitness, where our mission is to help you break free from unhealthy habits and mindsets to find true physical and emotional fitness. The Altum Fitness app is a world-class fitness companion offering expertly designed workout programs personalized to any goal and any experience level. By joining this community, you'll gain access to top-notch expert training programs, nutritional guidance, habit change programs, and so much more, all tailored to help you achieve your unique goals. By joining Altum Fitness, you'll also gain access to our exclusive companion community, the Altum Tribe. In the Tribe, you'll find access to expert coaches, habit change programs, live challenges, events, and so much more. It's a space to connect, learn, grow, and be motivated as you navigate your fitness journey. For one low monthly subscription, you'll be granted full access to our fitness app, community, exclusive challenges and content, and so much more. So join Altum Fitness today and become part of our amazing community. Download now and let's live deep.
That's a great question. Yeah, I think they're incredibly vulnerable because I think a lot of our first responders come from traumatic backgrounds themselves. It's why they're doing the job. It's why they want to help and serve. And you see a lot of them very idealistic. Like, I'm going to stop the bad guy. I'm going to go out and do the thing. Now, here's another reality of the job. You get into it a couple years in, you realize, my goodness, I don't know that I'm making that real difference that I thought I might. And when you try to reconcile that, your brain says, well, I want to do the right thing, but the criminal justice system may not be supportive of this, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But now you're looking at a moral injury. Well, wait a second. I thought I was here to help, and I feel like I'm not helping. Like, things just are continuing to get worse around me. And so then that moral injury, what does it look like? It looks a lot like PTSD, very, very similar paths. But sometimes I think what is actually going on with people is like their moral compass, their deeply held beliefs, value system is transgressed over time, over years. And then what do you become?
I love what you said about first responders becoming first responders for altruistic reasons because of their own personal experiences and wanted to see good in the world. And then once they're in that role, maybe repetitive disappointment in morality or in what's happening around them and not being able to have or to make the change that they want, right? It must be impossible to show up to these incredibly disturbing or violent type scenes over and over again and not lose faith in humanity. I have friends that are police officers and firefighters, and they will tell me that, gosh, it's so hard to just not become negative and just have this heart of, oh, here we go again, or oh, just another, oh, I've seen this movie before, and you're not looking at the human that you're there to help, or in sometimes discipline and enforce justice. You just see like circumstances. Does that ring true?
Yeah. Yeah, man, that absolutely resonates with me. When you go to a house and you're responding for the fourth or fifth time to a domestic violence, and it's the same victim with the same perpetrator. Yes, the response is, oh, you again, why are we here, right? You meet that person with a little bit of anger, you might berate them a little bit, or, there's a little cynicism and coldness in the interaction. What I used to ask police officers through my work at First Help and the responder readiness training was, what if underneath all that was helplessness? Man, here I am for the fifth time. I feel like I can't help you.
Despair.
Yeah, hopelessness. I feel like I can't make a difference here. I want to protect you. That's an incredibly vulnerable thing to say to another human being, but what if that was the culture that we began to build as a community to teach policemen and first responders to use that kind of language when they roll up to a call? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. I want to help you. I feel like I can't do anything. How vulnerable would that be? How much connection would that create? You actually might get a little bit of willingness from a person when they see you soft. But that's just, the job doesn't allow for it. You got to move. You got to turn things off. You got to push forward. You got to press through the difficulty. But yeah, I've reflected on that over my, now that I'm no longer a policeman. I wonder how much of the cynicism was helplessness, hopelessness, despair, fear, sadness, loneliness that I just did not know how to express and had no words.
Yeah, that's great. But like, how do you show up time after time and have that compassion? And there probably is an opportunity for some type of continuing education within, the police force to do that, I would assume.
Yeah. And I think what we're starting to see, Jesse, is the paradigm shift that a lot of agencies are adopting things like trauma-informed policing practices, where the universal question in trauma-informed care is not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. And it just reframes it. It reframes it for you as like considering like, oh, wow, this person that I'm about to place in handcuffs or have to talk to again potentially has struggled with the same thing. And so that's like developing a level of empathy and understanding.
Do you see a connection between this idea that these first responders are just seeing these traumatic events consistently, and then because of the injuries are turning to unhealthy ways to just kind of cope with those experiences?
Gosh, yeah, 100%, man. The first responders listening and viewers will understand, like, that is a part of the culture. In law enforcement, we even had a little kind of kitschy little name called it choir practice. It like desensitizes you to it. It's kind of funny, and you go, "Oh, choir practice." I remember the first time I heard that. And essentially it was just like, let's go and drink this away. And nobody was telling anybody else, hey, we probably shouldn't do that. Hey, has anybody ever thought like maybe we should go on a run together, or maybe we should go, have some healthy discussion without alcohol, maybe some coffee. But that just wasn't the case. And, alcohol, as it's a depressant, it's a numbing agent. If I don't want to feel a thing, like, that seems like a pretty reasonable, fast track way to not have to feel.
Is that community, the first responder community, less likely to get help once they find themselves with a substance abuse issue?
I think where we're at right now is we're in the heart of the paradigm shift. I think that was the mentality. I used to hear the "suck it up, buttercup." I always kind of cringed at that, but I understood it, right? Like, pull up your boots, freaking suck it up, embrace the suck, all the things that we hear. Absolutely. what you're starting to see is a lot more people coming forward. There's a lot more willingness. A lot of departments are accepting and adopting protocols and procedures that lend themselves to going and getting help and returning back to work and thriving on the job. So I think a lot of people are starting to change their perspective on that stuff for sure.
Yeah. Would you say alcohol is kind of the number one suspect when it comes to substances that first responders turn to? Are you seeing any other trends or anything that?
Yeah, alcohol is king, no doubt about it. I would say upwards of 70% of our clients struggle with alcohol use. There's a couple of things that we're seeing. One is pain pills, opioids, addictions. We're starting to see some of that. Again, these career fields, a lot of injuries, a lot of busted knees, bad backs, torn muscles. The job is physically stressful as well. I'm going to go get this surgery. Doc says, here you go. Take these, call me in a month. Well, 6 months later, it's like, I can't live without these things. So we are seeing some pills, but yeah, alcohol, to answer your question, is absolutely king.
Okay. Yeah. And this next question is just going to satisfy my curiosity, and it's certainly not a competition, but if you think about the different types of first responders, have you seen, in your opinion, that there's a particular one of those groups that experiences these issues at a higher intensity more frequently than the others?
Hey, everybody, it's your host, Jesse Karajak. Quick interruption of this podcast. Look, there's a multitude of ways that we all can and should look to improve our drinking habits, right? And we talk about them all the time on this show. Things like getting in a group, being honest with people, focusing on sleep and nutrition and exercise. I can go on and on. But what most people don't know, and frankly, I didn't know, is that there is an FDA-approved medication that you can start taking. It's easily accessible and private and affordable, and you can start taking it today and start experiencing powerful benefits within days. And again, I've done it. I'm blown away by it. And I want to get the word out so that as many people as possible know that is an option that they can and should use. So there's a company called OR Health. That's OAR Health. You can text STRENGTH, that's STRENGTH, to 710710. Again, that's STRENGTH to 710710. You'll get a secure link. You can fill out an assessment. And if the medication is right for you, a licensed medical professional will prescribe it for you and privately, discreetly have it shipped to your home. You'll be one of over 35,000 people that have decided to take back control of their drinking through OR Health. And 76% of OR Health members report drinking less within just 2 weeks. So if you've been struggling, know that there is an incredibly powerful option out there for you. So again, STRENGTH to 710710 to see if it's a fit. And now back to the show.
Yeah, I would say absolutely law enforcement officers, the civil unrest, COVID, all the high profile case, like there's a lot of things that happen very quickly in a very short span of time that kind of cause law enforcement officers to withdraw a little bit. So I definitely am seeing higher rates of alcohol use with law enforcement. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, the country as a whole, higher rates of alcohol use post-COVID, right? But when you say things that have happened in a short period of time, we do not have to go into detail, and we won't, but are you referring to kind of like mainstream media coverage of certain types of events that might paint a different kind of image of police officers?
Yeah. I was a policeman during that time, and I felt it. The people that were patting you on the back were suddenly like, you guys are killers, and they were looking at it, like it changed everything. Absolutely. And it was not just one singular event. It was a number of events. Police officers were under scrutiny. Body cameras became more prevalent. People had an inside look into the life of, and could just go to the local police department and through the freedom of information request, I want to see that guy's body camera. It was just a mess. Around, and policemen were really struggling, and I had a front seat view to that. I was on at the time.
I can see that, just reflecting on this conversation, right? If you're a police officer and you're
you're struggling in some way, shape, or form, whether it's moral injuries, maybe you feel trapped, you're not making a difference, you're working hard, you might even have irregular type shifts that you're working, and then you layer on top of that, this maybe perception, right or wrong, that the general public doesn't appreciate what you're doing. I can see that being a very challenging place to find yourself. All right, so let's get into, if we can, just some of the different treatment options, modalities, kind of like what goes on behind the walls of Warrior's Heart. So what sets your organization apart from, let's just call it, a typical treatment center for mental health and substance use disorders?
Yeah, I love that question. So our mission statement is Warriors Healing Warriors. So I think what sets us apart is, one, many of our staff have served themselves. Some are currently serving. I got folks who are in recovery. Two of our founders are in recovery, and I'm sharing that because it's public knowledge. This isn't something that they hide. They're very open and vocal about that. So we are the warriors. When we say Warriors Healing Warriors, we are them. They are us. In fact, if you came to my campus, you would not be able to tell who is who because everybody looks the same. That's by design. That's with intent. We are kind of a jeans and t-shirt kind of team here. Why? Because it builds rapport with the clients, right? That's how we like it. Unique to our program is also, this is the only folks we serve. So when they go, well, I'm not going to go to a program that also serves the general population. No, we only serve the warrior class. If you want me to get into some of the specifics here, and I think what make us also unique on modality side, I think our elective time, we do, and I'll get into what the electives are, but we do nature hikes here. I have 520 acres. That's a big piece of land. I have nature trails cut out here. They do yoga. They do a 6-step practice called Savers. That's silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. That's from Hal Elrod's book, Miracle Morning. And again, that's just a 6-step practice to return agency to these men and women, to these folks, building healthy habits. So they move in the mornings after they've done breakfast and after they've done their movement. They do the trauma-informed stuff. Then they do their lunch. And then we go to elective times, Monday through Friday, 1 to 5. Why it's Monday through Friday, 1 to 5 is very intentional because 10 to 12, they're working on their trauma-informed stuff. They're doing the hard work. The clinicians are doing the heavy lift. And now we want them to decompress. On my campus, they can go to Cooking with Chef. They can jump into the kitchen, learn some basic culinary skills, help with meal prep, potentially find some interest in learning culinary arts once they leave us. They can get massage. They can go into our art studio. They can paint. They can draw. Something that we're offering here now is pour paint, which I love. These guys are, oh my gosh, with our art instructor, Barbara Woodward, are creating some beautiful pieces of pour paint art. They can go to our gym. We have a great relationship with Rogue Fitness, got our stuff co-branded. We got a
Hell yeah. Hoorah.
We got a gym out there that will rival any CrossFit box. I mean, we got a legit setup here, so they can go and get their workout on. They can go fish.
Let's go.
We have a 26-acre lake that they can go fish at, and then they can go into our wood shop and metal shop. I have a very robust wood shop and metal shop. I've seen charcuterie boards built. I've seen tables built. I've seen chess boards built. They go home. We have a CNC router so they can customize. I've seen them do things with cartoon characters for the kids, with their military units, with the Warrior's Heart logo. So a lot of different ways for them to go and get their hands dirty, process through, work through all the things that they just discussed. And then when they're done with that, they get some dinner. And then in the evenings, I mentioned earlier, we are at our core a 12-step AA program. We are sanctioned by AA. We have our own group called Warriors Anonymous, chapters all over the United States. We have virtual chapters. But because of that, we spend time in the big book, the Alcoholics Anonymous book, in the 12 steps. While they're in programming, we're going to work them through steps 1, 2, and 3, empower them to work on step 4, taking a moral inventory. And then they can go out and begin the work. They can find their own home groups. The rooms, I heard this really beautiful thing: connection is protection. What we're trying to do here is build a community. You can't do sobriety by yourself. You got to have a group. You got to have a team. We refer to our program as a training program because training makes sense for this community and for this population. When you go to training, you show up on time. When you go to training, you complete the training. When you go to training, you work hard. Those are all expectations that I have of the warriors who come into this program. It says resort like, but this isn't a resort. You're not here to kick your feet up and do what you want to do. You're here to work hard and get sober. Why? Because I guarantee out there, you got a family, a support system, you got friends, loved ones, people who are under the assumption that Warrior's Heart is doing right by you and you're going to leave here sober. And so that's my expectation. You're going to give them what you owe them. Healthy, confident, sober warrior.
Dang. I hear compassion coming out of you, but expectation at the same time, which is setting them up to be responsible once they leave. I love that. And of course, I have some questions. So first one, so is your facility only treating folks with alcohol use disorder?
So we're looking for a primary diagnosis of substance use disorder. What we also treat here is the co-occurring mental health disorder. So the PTSD, depression, and anxiety. The primary diagnosis does have to be some type of a chemical dependency. But we know the chemical dependency gets a lot of attention, right? You see your loved one when they're intoxicated, when they're high, when they don't get out of bed, when they're not going to work. All these things are happening and it gets a lot of attention. But what we all know is there's something underneath that. So let's talk about the substance. Let's talk about what's going on chemically in our brains. Let's get into the big book. Let's come up with some tools to work through this. But let's also get underneath all of that. Let's talk about the experiences that have happened in your life. Let's reframe the thinking. Let's change the thought process. Let's develop new healthy paths forward. Yeah, so pretty big deal here on this campus. Yeah.
So if someone comes, you said earlier that, you're seeing maybe an uptick in pills, painkillers and things like that. If someone comes to your facility and, they're diagnosed with a substance use disorder or injury and they're admitted, would they then also go through the AA program?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell everybody, and this is for all your viewers and listeners, if you have an AA group in your area, man, go to it. They welcome everybody. You don't need to just be dealing with addiction in order to go through the 12 steps. They're applicable to everybody in every stage of life. The big book and the 12 steps are relevant for anybody struggling with any type of an addiction. So
got it.
Absolutely. It's relevant. Yeah.
I have more questions for you, Mike. Typically the typical warrior, because it's not a patient, right? You call them warriors. The typical warrior, are they folks that are actively police, fire, EMT physicians, and then they take a break from their vocation, step into your program, and they go back out? What does that look like?
All right, let's talk about something I've been a huge fan of, Sunnyside. It's the #1 alcohol moderation app in the US, and what I love about it is that it fits perfectly into how I approach my own habits. For me, having a system to track and stay accountable is key. Whether it's tracking my workouts, nutrition, or in this case, my alcohol intake, I've personally used Sunnyside with great success. You set your weekly drink goals, you track what you drink, and you get the chance to start your day off with a win each morning. What I also love about Sunnyside is that there's no pressure to quit, no judgment, just a positive approach to helping you drink less at your own pace. 96% of people using Sunnyside report drinking less within just 90 days. That's why they are our digital app partner of choice at the Sober Strength podcast. So if you've been thinking about cutting back, check out Sunnyside, download the app today, and join thousands of others taking those first steps to a healthier relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, so like we were talking about earlier, a lot of agencies are adopting protocols that are supportive of people going and getting better and healing. Tied into this is retention of your folks. look, it's hard to find good policemen, firemen these days. A lot of people don't want to do these jobs. So it is important that as part of the retention and recruitment of other policemen, that you support the ones you have, right? Help them.
Yeah.
So we do get active firefighters. We do get active police officers. I get active duty military folks here on my campus. And the agencies are, in fact, supportive of them coming here, getting healed, and then going back to work and reintegrating.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. I'm going to circle back on that in 1 second. Insurance, is this fully covered or partially covered by health insurance?
Yeah, another great question. We do tap into insurance benefits. We are in network with a lot of major commercial insurances. What I encourage our first responders and our military folks is, you have the benefit, use it when you need it. If you have heart disease, cancer, and you go to the doctor, nobody questions it like, oh my God, right? Why is addiction any different? We do not want finances to be a barrier. If someone can't afford, for example, out-of-pocket expenses, a copay, we'll tap into some of our nonprofit partnerships like the Avalon Alliance, like Frontline Healing, like Gary Sinise, that have specifically allocated funds for the organization and for the important work of healing from substance use. You don't become a first responder to get rich. You do it because it matters. And we commit to helping them and finding resources.
Dang, I love that. There is some bullshit happening in the reimbursements from health insurers for mental health services. You've alluded to this a little bit about the parallels between physical injuries and mental injuries. However, what's not similar and consistent is health insurers reimbursing folks when they're getting treatment for either or. They will play games and do ridiculous things to prevent people from getting the mental health help that they need. So much so that a lot of times mental health providers, things like LCSWs, psychotherapists, psychologists, will be intentionally out of network because of how hard it is for them to get reimbursed for the services that provides. But I'm encouraged to hear everything you said about the flexibility and the options for people to get help. And I'm also encouraged in the direction that we're heading as a country, because there are folks out there with big platforms that are shining light on what is a ridiculous practice with health insurance. So I just have 2 more questions for you, but they're important. So if I were to be listening to all of this and I would genuinely privately want to get help, my first thought would be like, damn, I love what Mike is saying. I would love to go to this facility for 6 weeks and get the help that I need. But then I have to tell people that I'm having trouble. Then I have to leave my family, and I have to, my neighbors, my community, my coworkers will know that finally they'll know that I'm having some mental health challenges or substance challenges, right? And then when I come back, am I going to carry a scarlet letter of, oh, that's Jesse, he can't handle this, right? I'm just being real with you, Mike. Like, those would be my fears, and I know it because before I quit my corporate job, those were my fears in that community, right? But what would you say to someone with those fears if you had the opportunity to speak to them before they decided not to put that hand up, as you put it earlier?
That's a great question, and I'll kick it back to myself.
Yeah.
What I believe changed my life. I'm a big fan of Dr. Brene Brown. A lot of people, I'm sure, are familiar with her work in shame and vulnerability. And I'll just never forget how she said this. She said, if you put shame into a petri dish, what 3 ingredients does it need to grow? And I thought, well, what is she talking about? And it's silence, fear, and judgment. And I went, oh man, those are the 3 things that kind of drive me: silence, fear, and judgment.
And that's for shame to grow.
That's for shame to grow. You got to have the 3 ingredients. She said, if you put those 3 ingredients in a petri dish, they grow shame. And I went, So here's what I did. I shared my story as often as possible with the people I loved and trusted, and that was the members of my family members at the San Antonio Police Department. And here's what I found because I shared that story. What I found was every week that I did that training, I had a line of policemen waiting behind because they wanted to talk about a similar situation, an instance of pain, a divorce, something going on in their life that they said, man, you said some things that I just need to talk about. What I would encourage your viewers and listeners is healing is not the end of a thing. It's the beginning of a thing. And sometimes when you begin a new chapter, like me leaving law enforcement before I got to my retirement, that was a huge loss for me. I had to grieve that loss, but I also had to understand that there is, from this death, from this pain, will come growth. Yeah, there's going to be people that are going to judge me. And to that, I say, great. I chose life. I chose in. I don't care what people say about me. I shared my story. I was open, honest, vulnerable. I stepped into who I was. And because of that, there was so much growth. And I think when you have attached yourself to your identity as a policeman, as a member of the military, right? They teach you how to put the uniform on. They don't teach you how to take the uniform off. But I think when you're just that closely tied to the identity, it doesn't allow you to grow. It doesn't foster vulnerability. It doesn't foster connection and love and compassion. Sometimes you got to step into the unknown. Policemen, our first responders do it every single day. Why wouldn't you do it with your story? And you just can't worry about what the world's going to say. There's always going to be a critic, man. You know this. You have a podcast platform. There's always going to be a critic who didn't necessarily agree with your opinion or what you had to say. And if I let that drive my decisions, if that became my focal point for living, man, I'd never live. I'd lock myself in my house and never come out. And guess what a lot of people do? That. Because
isolate.
Yeah, they isolate. And so I would encourage, like, step into your story. It doesn't, even if it's not healing from addiction, whatever you need to heal from, whatever you need to get past, the only way is through. There's not a magic pill to swallow. There's not an on-off switch. You're going to have to just do the work. Tom Spooner, one of our co-founders, did an excellent podcast recently with Sean Ryan. And Tom said this, and it really resonated with me. He said he admires everybody who is recovered, but the people he admired the most were the people who recovered from addiction and lost everything and still stayed sober. It's easy to recover and you regain everything, right? The wife stays, you get the kids, you get the house. Life is great. Unfortunately, that's just not the reality for everybody. Sometimes you're going to get better and you're still going to lose. You're still going to lose the thing. And that's okay.
It's like, ask yourself, am I becoming better, happier, healthier, more patient, more loving, and a better person? And if you're not, you got to do what's necessary to move in that direction. Because otherwise, your life and your legacy and everything is at stake. But last question for you, man. Looking forward, what are you most hopeful about when it comes to the future of like mental health care and treatment and addiction treatment, and B, specifically within the populations that are so important that you serve?
I think what I'm most hopeful for is, do I ever think we'll like eradicate addiction? No, I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that as long as people are able to feel, they're always going to try to find ways to not feel. And so there's always going to be some level of addiction, somebody with an inability to process or work through. There's always going to be there. My hope is that we can continue as a nation to have conversations around addiction and what it looks like, how it affects people. I hope the research just continues to broaden and deepen, and also deepen the conversations for our legislative bodies, people in Washington, people in our local governments and our state governments, to make meaningful, sustainable legislation that supports people struggling with addiction. This is very real. People right now, as we're sitting here, people are dying from it. Somebody's suffering with it right now, and we have a responsibility to them. So my hope is that we continue to talk about it after this podcast. You and I are long gone, that people are still trying to broaden their understanding around addiction, specifically to this population. What I'm hopeful for is that through conversations regarding addiction, we'll see divorce rates go down. We'll see families healed. We'll see children reunited with mothers and fathers who have been disconnected because of their career fields and their struggles with addiction. My hope is that we will continue to chip away at things like suicide. My hope is that PTSD will not become something, letters people put behind their name, and that they go, nah, man, you know what? I struggle with that, but now I'm better. Like, I'm good and I'm thriving and I'm kicking life's ass. That's my hope for addiction within this community, is that families are rehealed, reunited, people find themselves, people find new opportunity, continue to grow, thrive within the career field and after the career field, because nobody has things to offer the world like our military and our first responder communities. They are some of the baddest humans I ever served with, multi-talented, wonderful people. And I just hope that we continue to chip away at some of the things plaguing them, suicide, divorce rates, and all the things, man. I just want us to all heal together. And if I can be part of that conversation like I am right now, yeah, man, I'm in.
Amen. Amen. The passion just pours out of you. It really, really does. Hey, where should people kind of dig deeper and learn more about Warrior's Heart?
Yeah, they can go to our website, www.warriorsheart.com. You can see, so our website is really beautifully designed. But more importantly, what they can go on there and see each one of us, they can see our bios, learn a little bit about us as people. They can go on there and see why we do what we do and what drives us to do the work that we do.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. Hey, look, this is an amazing conversation. Thank you for spending so much time with me. And I truly hope that the conversation just inspires people, enlightens them, and all the good things.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody, that's the show, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sober Strength podcast and spending some time with us today. We've got a favor to ask. If you enjoyed the show, would you please consider subscribing to the show and even leaving a rating and review? That simple act drastically helps us reach more people in our mission to help them live better, longer, healthier lives. You can also follow us if you'd like on Instagram and YouTube for regular tips and motivation around mental health, addiction, and so much more. Know that your support fuels our brand and is greatly appreciated. So until next time, stay strong and live deep.